one they bet against to make it. They must not know I love trips to Vegas. The underdog became the underrated. In my city, I'm paraded. Confetti dropping when I'm home. I'm floating down Tudor, floating on strong. Had so many rights they couldn't tell us we was wrong. Lamar Middle School, we was on. I got this line hard in my chest. I'm one of the best. They ask about him, they gon' bring up success. See, I've been fighting this stress. You ain't right, you get left. I'm good with my left, so I don't argue with refs. Cause just like EA, I'm in the game.
Hey everybody, it's Rob here with We Give 110. Once again, we're on Wednesday. It is our Experts Talks with our amazing accounting and bookkeeping expert, Misa. And she's here to give us the hacks, the tricks, the cheats, maybe. Level up your game on QuickBooks. Now, I'm not a QuickBook expert, so I'm going to just have my own kind of questions and stuff like that, maybe. This is something that you want to have your notebook ready for, because a lot of you use QuickBooks, or you'll use on a program that's probably very similar to it, and you're going to really want to have a lot of these things down, because a lot of us, we set this stuff up on our own, and there's probably a lot of things that we're missing. So Misa's going to drop it right away, and she's going to be talking right off the bat with about how to completely set up the program. So let's start off. Thank you, Misa, for being here. Thanks for coming again. And I hope you're having a great week, of course. And we were just talking about it raining there, and I'm not sure about the rain outside yet. But you can see it's darker than it normally is at this time, right? So, scared about the rain outside. So let's not rain on our parade. Let's get right to it. So, cool. Yeah, that was a good intro. Good segue into it. So let's talk about completely setting up QuickBooks here.
Yes. So when you sign up for QuickBooks, I know a lot of people just, they sign up and they're like, oh, I have QuickBooks. But I'm like, there are actually steps that you want to make sure that you take and you complete before you start doing anything. For instance, you want to make sure that you actually go into the company settings and you go through all of those and make sure you've entered in your information, you've made all the necessary selections, because there's like 5 or 6 different tabs under company settings. So you want to make sure you actually go through them and set up everything for your particular. Yes, I see it all the time where, like, when you go into the company settings, there are things that haven't been either turned on or set up, or they haven't entered certain information. And it's like, yes, go through, enter everything, and make sure all of your company settings are complete. And once you have all your company settings set up, make sure you've set up your chart of accounts, which is, of course, the basis that you're going to use for your bookkeeping. And QuickBooks, and I'm sure other software similar to QuickBooks, they will give you a pretty good template of a chart of accounts for you to use based on whatever industry you put in. And then you can always modify and adjust it to fit your company. And then also another good rule of thumb to think about is, if you're not sure what categories you should have, you can always refer to the IRS form Schedule C, which gives the IRS's different categories, which is a good reference to use to see, okay, this is what the IRS says are the categories to use for business expenses. So if you need a good baseline, you can use that along with the template in QuickBooks to create and make sure you have the most accurate chart of accounts that will be most useful while you're doing your bookkeeping.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So setting up a company tab. I was just thinking you have to go in there and just put in your address and who the owner is, maybe your business registration number, maybe your taxation number.
There's some other tabs in there. So actually
5 tabs. Oh my God! That's a lot of information. Probably not just one little thing per tab. Oh my God! Okay, but you know what's really cool about that is that, I mean, a lot of people probably don't do that, so that they're missing out on something. Maybe I don't know exactly what those tabs are, but there's probably things like, is this an internet business? Is this like a brick and mortar business?
Yeah.
And that's going to set it up and provide you with different settings that are going to be available on the on other pages or on other tabs within the accounting software itself, including that the chart of accounts, right? So yeah, that's huge. It's very, very important. But it's not like a Facebook page where you can leave half your stuff blank. I don't want anybody knowing this.
Exactly.
Right? So yeah, very, very important there. And of course, if you don't have the information, then that's probably something that you want to look up, because you might have missed something when you were setting up your business, and you don't want that to come around and haunt you later, right? Exactly. And then, of course, then you moved on to your setting up your chart of accounts, and we've talked about that before in one of our previous episodes. So if you haven't seen it, go back. Because I'm not going to play a clip right now, right? But so you got to go back. You got to watch it. There's lots of them, right? Lots of great wisdom there, right? So setting up that chart of accounts and getting all that stuff sorted out. That's very important. Super, super important, because that way you know what's coming in, what's going out, what you got to pay, who's got to pay you, and everything like that. And then, of course, so if you're not sure about taxation or what you can write off, as you said, that Schedule C for the IRS. Now, if you're in Canada or in other countries, like you can also, check out the tax websites and stuff like that. And one of the things I want to say is that if you do own your own business, there's a lot of write-offs that you can make, including paying your own kids.
Yes. So you want to make sure that you capture every single expense. So you can write that off on your tax.
Yeah. So I thought one of the funny things was like, when Carrie and I were talking about paying kids and stuff like that, it was like, it was like starting to think like, how much can I write off with that? And I still have control of their bank accounts because they're minors. Now be honest about it. The IRS will be sniffing.
Yes. That's definitely something that the IRS will, definitely be looking at. But yeah, it's definitely something that can be done. So
yeah, and that also comes around to that chat we had about having credit cards for your kids. Having their name on your credit card to help build up their credit. So this is a great way to do that as well, but that's another side note. So, okay. So, wow. So anything else that we need to know about setting it up?
Yes. So I know some people don't like to do it, but the benefit of using a cloud accounting software is to take away some of the manual tasks, because, hey, we do have technology these days. And so actually connecting your bank accounts directly to QuickBooks so that they can pull in all the transactions for you on a daily basis. Some people don't like to connect it, and they prefer
they're afraid.
Yeah. And I'm just like, because the way I see it is, I'm like, okay, we live in a very technology-driven world, and yes, there are, there's all types of fraud and schemes and things out there, but you can do what you can to, make sure you're protecting your information using strong passwords and, keeping an eye on things. But then on the other side, there's some things you can't, there's some things you have no control over.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you do want to make the bookkeeping piece as easy as possible. And part of that is letting the technology do some of the work for you. It's not going to do all of it, but let it do some of it. So if you're someone who has, hundreds of transactions in a day or a week, do you really want to have to take the time to either go download from your bank and upload versus just letting them feed in automatically?
And I come from a time of running a business before all of that happened. And believe me, when you have like, 1,000 transactions in a day and you have to like then transfer that over.
Exactly.
Like it was such a pain. It's like you would sit there, literally, you would have your POS system and it wouldn't be connected to your accounting books, and then you would just be like, you'd hit, summary for the end of the day, and it would like, and it would make up like, 15-meter long, like receipt, and like heaven forbid that it ran out of paper, like. Then you got to take that and you roll it all up into like a little roll. Take it to the other room, then roll.
Exactly.
School, you know what I mean? You had all these little rolls of paper, like all stacked here, and some people cut them and then put them in order and stapled them in a book. Oh, man, it was such a pain. But yeah, so if you haven't got your cloud software set up, you were talking about fraudulent stuff. Have strong passwords. Have second, two-factor or two. Oh my gosh, two device.
Yeah.
Right. Different types of setups there. That'll definitely keep you safe. And believe me when I say that there was a lot of scams out there before. The internet actually hit, and actually the internet transactions are actually a lot more secure than a lot of people think. So don't worry about that too much, people. It's okay. Yeah. I work for a software company. I kind of have an idea about that, right? So, yeah. So once again, get your cloud stuff set up. You can have multiple bank accounts set up in there. You can have stuff moving in and out. You can have all that stuff set up all from there. Okay, so next thing that we got to set up.
Well, that as far as setup, that's all for setup. So just making sure you're going through all the company settings. You have your chart of accounts set up, and you connect your bank feeds. That's right. If you can do all those things, you should be good to get started. And
just getting started. And you know what? It's always the beginning that's the hardest. So always remember that. Like if you can get all your accounts in there and everything like that, when you're done, you'd be like,
exactly.
You'll feel so much better.
Exactly.
It's going to save you time. And also remember to set up like a written system of steps for you or for your managers so that you guys are following the same steps. So as you're going through it, things are not being missed. Exactly. So if you have an employee or a manager who's also entering things in manually for like petty cash or whatever reason they have to put stuff in there, that they know what they can click on and what they can do and what they should do and follow those kind of steps. Because being able to know where someone went wrong helps you if someone, if two people are handling the books. So take that from a person who had a business partner. Got to know what each other's doing. All right. Okay. All right. So, wow, that was awesome. Yeah. So let's just recap that. So hit up the company settings tab. There's 5 tabs that you're going to have to hit up. So get all those filled in. It's going to have a lot of information. If you're missing some of that, get it filled in. Second one was set up your accounts, your chart of accounts in there. Get that in there. If you need help with what your business expenses, check out the IRS Schedule C, business expenses and stuff like that. And then, of course, get your cloud software set up so that it saves you a whole bunch of time, keeps you nice and secure, and at the end of the day, it's just a quick couple of presses of a button, not like 2 hours of entering stuff.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
All right. So let's hop over to our second one. Now, the second one is going to be one that a lot of people have questions for. So if you have questions about this, please put them into the comments and we will get back to you on those, or we'll share them and Misa will be able to answer some of those for you. All right. So the second one is common issues. Okay. Now, this could be a big one.
Yes. So in QuickBooks, and like I'm not sure of other softwares, they may or may not, but in QuickBooks there are some just automatic created accounts that like you don't add. Their QuickBooks adds them, so they're just in there. And some of these accounts you don't necessarily need. Like they're there, but you don't really need them. And a lot of times things can end up in these accounts and you don't want them to. So you have uncategorized asset, uncategorized income, uncategorized expense, opening balance equity, and then you also have undeposited funds. Now, undeposited funds is something that's actually used, but it must be monitored and handled the correct way. The other accounts, they should never have a balance, ever. If there's a balance in any of those accounts, you have a problem. Like maybe QuickBooks picked up, a transaction and they put it in that account, but you didn't review it, which is usually the issue. Is okay, so you have the bank feeds feeding in and you have all these transactions, but a lot of times what people are doing is they're just clicking and adding. Just clicking it and adding it in without actually reviewing the transaction to see what is this transaction for, what category does it connect to on my chart of accounts, and then making sure they're actually filling out details for that transaction so that it'll be helpful later. So that's usually one of the biggest things is not even paying attention to what's coming in on through the bank feeds, and then just right. assuming that the system is doing the work for you. But it's not necessarily doing the work for you, at least not in the beginning, or until it learns you and your transactions, or if you set up some rules. Right. So that's the big thing. So those are like the major accounts to look out for, because these are accounts that you don't create. The system automatically has these accounts in there and you cannot delete them, but you do want to monitor them because you don't want balances in these accounts.
Can you rename them?
You can, because what I do is I just add like at the end, because you can rename them, and at the end I just put do not use, just as a in all caps, like do not use, just because it's just as a reminder that this is an account that doesn't need to be used. I can't get rid of it, but just a reminder that I do not need to use it.
Good. Okay. Well, that's a good one, because a lot of people are probably having stuff go in there. Now, it's probably something in the programming where they want to have some sort of account set up when the program runs so that it doesn't throw up errors. And then once you add yours in there, then they have it. But if you can't delete them, yeah, great point. Put in like do not use. Yeah. Because there's a whole bunch of them. And of course, if you do see money in them, then you should be going in there and figuring out why it's going in there. It's probably an error catcher. It's probably an error catcher.
And I think that's what they created them for, is to kind of help catch errors. But most people don't realize that, they need to actually do something about it and to just leave it there. Why do I have $500,000 in this? I'm wondering where that money went. Hey, I was going to go on vacation, but I didn't have any money. Exactly.
So if you're looking for your money, check those other accounts. Right?
Exactly.
All right. Well, that's a good one to remember. Okay. So what are some other common issues that we should be looking out for as well?
Well, when you're actually going through all the transactions, you'll see on any transaction, you can see up to 4 options to choose. So you can see categorize, which is, you're going to put the information in as far as where this transaction goes. You have a find match, which is used for if you've already entered something into the system and you just need to match, like now the bank feed came in and you need to match what you've already entered. Then you have a record as transfer, which technically should be used to show the movement of funds between bank accounts that are connected in QuickBooks. So both connected, and then you can, show transfers between the accounts. And then you have a record as a credit card payment, of course, which is to record payment of your credit card that's connected in QuickBooks as well, being paid from your bank account. And so making sure that you're using the right option, which most of the time, depending on like if you're using any outside software that you're integrating. So it all depends on how it's set up. So if you're integrating another system with QuickBooks, a lot of times, it's syncing over data. And so the information, so that in that case, information has already been entered. So
Right.
a good rule of thumb is to match first and then add second. Because what you want to do is you always want to match whatever you have in the system first before you add it. Because if you just add everything, you can end up with duplicate transactions.
And that's not what you want.
No, that's not what you want, because then your numbers are wrong.
Yeah, your numbers are going to be wrong, and then you're going to be scratching your head, especially if you have products that are the same price.
Exactly.
And it's like if you're let's say you're running a barber shop and you have like, it's a set price for a cut.
Yeah.
Right. This is an example, and it's like $20-something, 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 and then you end up having two in there. You're going to be like,
exactly.
Which one's what, right? So, So one of the big things, match everything, make sure it's all going, and this is why having a paper backup is okay. It's a good thing to have, and which is another common issue is you should back up everything.
Yes.
Yeah, you'd be amazed at how many people don't back up their computer systems. It's kind of scary. So automate that. If you don't do that in your setup, right? So got your 4 options: categorize, find the match, record as a transfer, so that's between bank accounts, and record as a credit card. All right, okay. So, okay. Nice. All right, Carrie, you're doing the books. I'm not doing them. I program pages. I do all that stuff. You do this stuff.
And the last issue that most people kind of overlook or don't really pay attention to is actually using the software to provide as much detail as you need. So when you do have a transaction, make sure you do include the vendor or customer name. Make sure you do look through and select the right category from, again, your chart of accounts. Include any memo notes that's going to help you. So if you shopped at Amazon, how are you going to know what you bought? Yes, of course, yes, you should have your receipt. But if you're just looking at your system, wouldn't it be helpful just to have a quick little note oh, I bought this business book, or, I bought this particular product. So you
I
can
bought
have
the software.
Exactly.
I bought that other software.
Yeah, exactly. So just as a quick reference, and then you can take it even a step further, and you can attach documents. So you can attach a copy of the receipt or a copy of any type of details that will help you recognize or remember what was going on with that particular transaction.
Yeah, don't do this. Don't do this. See, this is my little jot note of all these different courses and applications I've bought that I've got to go through. It's not the most bookkeeping way of doing it, but it's right there in front of me. I do know it's there. So, but yeah, memoing stuff is very important. And we've talked about this before. If you get a receipt, you take your receipt. Now this is all in Korean, so you won't understand it. But you might. I don't know. Can you read Korean? I don't know. I never know. People surprise me sometimes. So this one is okay. So this is okay. This is a food. This is purchasing. That's Pepsi. That's Dr. Pepper. This is this little grocery stuff from the corner store. So just take it, start writing on the back what it was, especially if it's in another foreign language and you don't always speak that language. Especially if you're traveling, it's a big point. If you travel, it's it's important to get it in. And one of the things, here's a good one for all you people who travel for your business. Don't put your thermal paper near something hot. You want to mess up your receipts. Don't put the hot hair dryer on top of your receipts. Like while you're packing in a rush. Like you'll be like, "What's this?" Black. It's like CIA redacted.
Right. And even with the receipts, like most people nowadays have a cell phone. So at a minimum, just take a picture with your phone. Take a picture, and then you don't even need the physical receipt. You don't have to worry about. Just make sure you get a picture of it and you store it away, and there you go. Now you don't have to worry about carrying.
And that's okay for tax time. Like they accept that now, or
yeah.
Really? Oh, sweet. Okay.
Yeah.
Because you used to have the original. Like, give me the original. I don't want pictures. How do I know that's yours? Why would I take pictures of other people's receipts?
Right.
So you can get a tax break. So I just stood at Home Depot, like, can I take a picture of your receipt?
Right.
Can I take a picture of your receipt? Now, people, that is not a hack. All right, so let's keep going here. Okay, so all right, so let's review that. So QuickBooks automatic accounts, there's going to be a bunch that are uncategorized. Just relabel them as do not use. Make sure there's nothing in them. Make sure that they're zeroed out. If there's something that went in there, it's probably an error catch. So you want to make sure that you put that right in the right area. When you're entering your stuff, there's going to be 4 options: categorize, find, match, record as a transfer, and record as a credit card. Put it in there. So remember to match first, and then add your stuff second. And of course, add any details and memos that you have.
Yes.
And keep your receipts away from hairdress. Hot hair stuff. Not that I have that problem. Okay.
And QuickBooks even has an app. So of course, like everybody has an app. So they do have an app where they have an option to take a picture of the receipt in the app, which will connect with your QuickBooks file. So it'll send a copy of the receipt to your QuickBooks.
So when you're fighting with your friend over who's going to get the receipt for a business expense, you take a picture of it. How much is that? Let's figure this. It's mine. We're fighting over the receipts, like who gets their cell phone on it. Mine.
Yeah.
I can picture that. We should just make like comedies. No, it's my picture. There you go. That's your next Instagram. New age fighting over the receipt. All right. Okay. So, are there any other common issues that we should be looking for?
Those are the main ones. Because if you follow all of these steps, and then you watch, make sure you watch out for those accounts, you should be okay. It's when you're just in there, just like kind of just doing whatever, or you're just so confused and you don't really know what you're doing. That's when you have those issues.
Right. Yeah. So, and the other one is don't let your children play on the computer that has your accounting on it. You don't think you're going to they'll never get in there. Don't worry. No, they can get into anything. Never underestimate the children of the world. All right. So, next one here is, of course, do these things each month. So we were talking about having some sort of book or having some sort of written schedule or written processes that people follow. So what are the best practices that you should be doing each month?
Okay, so if you're categorizing everything throughout the month, that'll save you some time at the end of the month because everything should be in there. And then after that, you just want to make sure that you do double check for any personal transactions. Hopefully you catch it when you're categorizing things. So if you did happen to have a personal transaction, that you paid by mistake or whatever the case is, make sure that you are not including that as part of, your business expenses. And then also, if you do deal with cash, make sure that your cash transactions are being recorded and also being deposited too. So if you deal with cash, like people are paying you in cash, you want to make sure that you record it, but then you also want to make sure that you are depositing the cash in the bank too. So just
which reminds me, you had posted up the little money bags, right? Like I was like, oh my god, nightmares. You get to the bank, you put your key in, and you're like trying to get it open, and you got like a couple of $1,000 because you drive up with your car, you hop out of your car, you run over to the bank, the crazy metal bank thing, right? You're like, and you go, try to put your thing in there, but like if you have a big day and like old school, like most of the stuff was all cash, you'd have couple of $1,000 on you, and you drive by the bank once, and you go around the parking lot and come back. Make sure there's nobody just standing there. If someone's standing there, you're sitting in your car, you park.
Yep.
You just sit there watching. Yeah. So when you posted that picture on Instagram, I was like, oh my god, that's so funny. So yeah, cash transactions recorded and deposited. Yep. Another good thing is I always try to do when I was trying to do is I would either keep it in my own personal safe at the business, and then during the day take it over to the bank so you can actually go into the bank and drop it off. Exactly. That's perfectly fine. You can do it early in the morning. There's not a lot of people around, but people are alert, and it's not like the middle of the night when people are all watching.
Yes.
All right. So that was double check for any miscategorizations. Cash transactions need to be recorded. So you should have a POS system that should probably integrate with your system. So if people don't know what a POS system, it's a point of sale system. So basically that's like your cashier, and the people go beep beep, right? Yeah. And scan stuff, and then they go from there. So you should be able to have that connected, so all that stuff is being transferred over. Okay, and then of course you deposit it, and you avoid the nightmare of those baggies.
Yes.
Right. So other things, there's got to be more, right?
Yes.
So,
and then so of course, once the month ends and you want to go in, pull your bank statements and reconcile all of your accounts. And that's every single account. That's bank accounts, that's credit cards, any loans you may have, any account that you get a statement for, go grab the statement and reconcile it to what has been entered in QuickBooks, and make sure that it comes to a zero balance. Like everything reconciles. So when you enter the statement balance, your reconcile balance should be zero.
Yeah, so that's a big one. Now, I guess because a lot of stuff is now automated, that like the credit cards, like a lot of your bills will probably just come directly in, right? Now, do you have to set something different up for that in QuickBooks to get like automated billing?
So I know QuickBooks recently rolled out. So they're working with some banks where they will automatically grab your statements. So it's not every single bank yet, but there are other options out there that will that will go and fetch statements, or you can put in documents. Like you have HubDoc, you have Receipt Bank, which is now Dex, which they do the same thing. They can go fetch your statements, and you can like scan receipts. So they're like a document, repository place that's outside of QuickBooks but can integrate. So you do have some options to choose from. But
so I would suggest having those because they're a lot better than the mail. I'm not saying that the mail is bad, but
definitely, like at a minimum, at least have e-statements where you can get your statement online. I'm like, I have not had a statement mailed to me ever, unless there was no e-statement option, but where you can just log into your bank account and download the statement at a minimum.
You're making me feel old.
the first thing I'm like, when I get a bank account, I'm like, make sure I can get online statements because I do not want anything mailed to me. So
it's just funny because like so many people go, well, I haven't got it in the mail yet, so you have to like wait, and every bank and everybody did everything on a different date, and it just became such a hassle. And then like your employee like just grabs a whole bunch of mail and then they sort it wrong. Now for my case, like I had basically it was like a mailboxes etc. type thing, right? Like or a FedEx drop off copy place and stuff like that. So I mean, we would get like the post office would just drop off a bin, and then we would sort that into all the different things. So yeah, like if your employee wasn't paying attention, and then all of a sudden somebody else has got your credit card, you know, like credit
exactly.
card. So double check. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So pull and reconcile. Yeah, pull and reconcile all your bills and all that stuff and statements so that everything matches up. It should be 0 if you did everything right. Then you should be good. All right. So what's the next step?
Then you can run and review your financials. So actually go and look at all of your financial statements. So of course, you know, your P&L, your balance sheet, your cash flow statement. And then if you do invoice any customers, make sure you're looking at your AR aging to see who owes you, who's past due, when you need to collect money. And then if you have any bills, so anybody that you owe, make sure you're looking at your AP aging to make sure you know who you owe, when you need to pay them, and that you're paying them on time. So you want to pull those reports and review everything to make sure things look correct, make sure things are in the right place. So, you know, if maybe you miscategorize something and so there's like an expense that looks too high and you're like, you want to look at that and make sure you put things in the right category so that when you're actually reviewing your financials, the numbers are in the right place and everything is as it should be so that you can actually use the information.
Yeah. So once again, that's run and review all your accounts receivables and your accounts payables. So when we say AR and AP, so that you have to know the difference. Right? So just reminding people if they hadn't watched the vocabulary lesson that we had, right? So go back, watch the vocabulary lesson. You'll be like, what are they talking about AR and AP? We explained all of this if you were paying attention.
Yes.
All right. So then invoice people, very important. Even if you don't invoice people, like if it's not up to their date, I think it's always a good thing to like even send out something and saying, this is your current balance with us. And then that date when it will be due. So maybe they have an agreement to pay you on the quarter or like whatever it might be. Maybe they totally forgot. Right? So even if you say, hey, you only have to, you send it out once every 3 months or whatever like that. Just send them one anyways. That just has a due date that has when it's supposed to be paid. Exactly. So that they can see that it's something there and their accountant will then put it in the right place. And
exactly.
So, yeah, it's so important because chasing people for money sucks. Just leave it at that. They're more than happy to spend money on in your business, but when it comes around to paying for it, yeah,
a whole different story.
All right. So, anything else for the end of the month?
Close your books.
Got to be more.
Close your books. So, actually, in the company settings, there is an option where it says close the books, and so at the end of the month. Once you've reconciled everything, once you've pulled your reports and everything is accurate, you actually want to go in and put a date in the close your books field, because this will keep you from making unnecessary changes or making changes on accident without the system at least notifying you first. So then if you try to change something, so say you close, we're in May. So say you closed out April. And then you're like, oh, well, let me go change something. I wanted to, put this in a different category, or I did this wrong. The system will say, hey, it'll give you like a warning. Hey, you're about to make a change and we've closed, this period has already been closed. do you actually want to make this change? So then at least you get a heads up and you can say, oh, maybe I don't need to make this change, or maybe it is a change you need to make. And if you're working with a bookkeeper, because there's an option to put a password on it, usually the bookkeeper will put a password that the client does not know. So, you know, like say you're in there looking around and clicking around, you don't want anyone to just start making changes. You want them, like if there's a change that needs to be made, you want them to come to the bookkeeper and say, hey, can you make this change? Or, hey, I noticed this. Because otherwise, if things are just, you know, open and free, people can go in and make whatever changes or do whatever they want to do. And then you have to go and probably fix it later. So.
Reconcile everything again. Yeah, because that's... yeah. So when it comes around to tax time and you see the accountants all pulling out their hairs, because people have probably gone back and put stuff in the wrong place. Yeah. So that's actually a really, really good tip. You know, it's like close out those books, date it, password it, so like other people can't just screw around with it. And then if it really needs to be changed, then the person can reach out to the bookkeeper or whoever's ultimately in charge of the books so that they don't mess it up. Yeah, very good point. Very, very good point. Wow, lots of stuff today. Actually, lots of stuff for QuickBooks. And I think it's so important because a lot of people, they run QuickBooks in their systems, and if they have something that's probably very, very similar, because QuickBooks is probably the number one, you know, business software out there, just based on volume of use.
Right. Right.
Sure, it's not the only one, but it's definitely a big one. So cool. Okay, so that's the last one there.
Yes,
Awesome. Okay,
that last one is important, and I see many people don't do that. They don't actually close the books. They just kind of, oh, I'm done. I'm like, oh no, you haven't.
Okay, let's start a new month. I'm taking my profits. All right. Okay, so let's go over this. So the first thing is when we talk about setting it up, go over the company settings tabs. There's 5 tabs that you got to check out. Make sure you get them all filled out so that the software will be working properly for you and will be set up. Set up your charter of your chart of accounts, and then also get all those categories in there for what you're going to be spending on. So you can get that from IRS Schedule C. Right, for business expenses, and then of course set up your cloud software so that it's, you know, or network software, so that you have your POS system set up, you have your bank set up, you have your payment system set up, all that stuff, all that wonderful stuff set up, so that it just saves you a whole bunch of time. And then we move on to common issues people have is automatic accounts that are added by QuickBooks. So uncategorized, you just want to rename them as do not use. And if you do see money in there, you probably want to check that out, see what's happening, where is it going, right? And then, of course, you have those 4 options that you should know is categorize. When you're putting stuff in, make sure that you're putting it into the right category, finding the correct match, and then record it as transfer between your bank accounts or record it as a credit card transaction, right? And then, of course, you want to make sure you match, and then add second, right? So it's kind of like, you know, Carrie will say, like, you know, measure twice, cut once. You know, like this is the same kind of idea. You know, match first, then add it, right? Okay, and then make sure that you add any details and memos, which is a big one there, so that you know where it's going. And then, of course, end of the month is when you want to double check, make sure that you, if you've miscategorized anything like that, make sure you go through all the different parts. Cash transactions are recorded and deposited, and then you run to the bank and don't get robbed. And pull and reconcile all your bank stuff, all your statements from all the different bills that you have and everything like that, and, you know, credit card statements, bank statements, all that stuff, and reconcile, make sure that everything is up to date, because you never know, somebody might be double charging you. That happens. All right. And then, of course, run your review of your AR or your accounts receivable and accounts payable. And then also make sure that you have all your invoices for your people who owe you money ready and pay all your bills, of course, right? And then, of course, finally close out the books at the end with it and have it dated and passworded so nobody in your company can come in there and mess them up.
Yeah.
And that would make Misa a very happy person to work with you.
Yes.
So, wow, okay, lots of information there for everybody. So, anything else that you think people should know? Just like side or some little quirky thing that will like help them out with QuickBooks.
At the end of the day, if you're not sure, just ask. Like, don't try to spend time like Googling or like trying to find the answer. Just go to someone that will have the answer for you and just ask directly. And even if you need to, get training from someone directly as well. So if you just want somebody to show you how to use it and walk you through it, do that, because that would be more beneficial than trying to Google.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the big things is that like a lot of software companies have free training on their software. So getting familiar with the software is one thing, but then becoming, an expert on it. So if you can spend like an hour a day doing the training or whatever like that, you'll probably find so many little hacks and tricks and stuff like that that'll just make you that more effective and that more accurate with your bookkeeping. And I think, that's a huge one, getting the free training. And of course, if coming from a technical support background and customer service, reach out. If you're not sure, reach out, because you could spend hours and hours, and then you go on YouTube and you search and you find some guy who puts their stuff on there and it's like 5 years old information because he's never updated his software, or his video. And just make sure that it's all right. Like that's why just reach out. It's a lot faster sometimes just to reach out and find that. Of course, I always say, try to find your own solution first. But if you're not sure, especially when it comes to money, just ask.
Yes.
Once again, this comes around to getting yourself a mentor. That's always a great person to have, that they know you're not calling to bug them. You're just calling to ask a couple of questions. And if they're using QuickBooks as well, then they're going to probably have that answer for you.
Yep.
Right? Or reach out to Misa.
Right.
All right. Reach out to Misa at Perfectly Kept Books or perfectlykept.books.com. Instagram, Perfectly Kept Books. If you haven't seen a lot of her Instagrams, they're cracking me up. So they're great. I have to do stuff like that, I think. Maybe I'll paint hints on the top of my head, like, do you know the answer to this? See if that'll work. See if I get me a couple of views. So once again, Misa with Perfectly Kept Books at perfectlykept.books.com. I'll throw your stuff along the bottom there so everybody can see it there. And then, of course, it's Rob and Carrie. We're at We Give 110. So if you're looking here for a personal success journal, if you're looking for ways to get people to help you, or you're looking for someone to mentor you, you're looking for someone to consult with you about running your business, setting up your customer support systems, getting your product out there, marketing, and all this stuff, we either have it covered or we know somebody who can help you. So just give us a call or hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. We're all over the place. So that's We Give 110, and as you can see right down, wegive110.com. And of course, Misa, thank you once again for a great week. Now, next week we have a topic. What's our topic next week? Is going to be, I have it written down here. Is removing the stress and shame around finances. Yes, that's a great one. So we're going to be talking about that one next week, and so that'll be coming to the end of season 1.
Yes.
Right, so this is going to be very interesting. End of season 1 for everybody, and then we're going to be changing up some stuff, and we're not going to tell you exactly what's going on, but I think we're going to have that, and then we're going to have a little bit of a hiatus because Carrie's going to be going away on vacation at some point soon. So we'll be able to figure that in. And then we're going to be showing you guys some really cool stuff. Carrie and I are going to be putting on our expert hats for everybody. I've started sharing. So if you're a business person like Misa or anybody out there, if you have brick and mortar or anything like that, you're definitely going to want to get involved with We Give 110. Get into our Facebook group, We Give 110. And we're going to actually be going out there and actually putting our knowledge out there. In this case, so we're also going to have another expert day in there. And of course, if Misa would like to come back and present some other stuff, you're always welcome to come. And for season 2, we'll be more than happy to have you. And also, if you're out there and you want to share your expertise with people, don't be afraid. Contact us, and we'll be more than happy to host you on our show. Okay, so everybody have a great evening, and we'll see you next week. And we're going to be talking about removing the stress and shame around finances. Shame. You're going to find out Rob's shame about finances. So stay tuned and find out what my guilty pleasure is. All right, so everybody have a great week, and we'll see you next week.